Guys, we're in trouble. Things aren't looking good. Let's talk about it. With the economy the way it is today and prices going up and wages staying the same or maybe even going down, man, I tell you what, this is not sustainable. There's a thing nowadays called functionally unemployed. Have you heard about this? I had to make myself some notes because I'll never remember all this stuff. But the actual unemployment rate in this country is 4.2%, according to the government, of course. If they don't like the numbers, they just change the way they figure them out and come up with new numbers. But functionally unemployed are people that are either unemployed, looking for full time work, or are working but are below the what they consider a living wage. In other words, these are a lot of people that, like I talked about in a previous video, that are working full time, but they're homeless, okay, because they can't afford life, basically, right? Even though they're working full time. This is something that, this is new, okay? This hasn't started until about 4 or 5 years ago with all this. I mean, before that, if you had a homeless person, there was a reason. They were maybe on some kind of illicit drugs, or they had a mental problem, or they were just lazy and didn't want to work, or whatever. You never saw people working full time that were homeless, but now you do. But anyway, the functionally unemployed rate is 24.3%. So almost 1 in 4 people can't live these days, right? They don't make a living wage. Okay, so a living wage, according to Google, for a family of four is $104,000 a year. Okay, still seems a little high to me. Of course, I live in a small town, and things aren't as expensive as they are in some other areas. However, they're getting close. So, the average four family, where's that one at? Okay, average income for a family of four is uh, $80,610. So that means most people fall below that living wage threshold, right? Because that's average. Average home price in the U.S. as of the first quarter of 2025 is $503,000, $3,800. $503,800. That's insane. That's the average home price. Average mortgage payment for a 30-year mortgage, $2,715 a month. 15-year mortgage, $3,552 a month. Y'all remember the days, if you're anywhere around my age, and I mean, within a 20 years either way, probably, there was a time when it was cheaper to buy a house than it was to rent. You might be paying $500, $600, $700 in rent, but you could make a $300 or $400 house payment. You know, okay, you're not going to buy a mansion, but you know what I mean. You could get a decent house for a price that would only cost you for 3, 4. I think my first house, which was a really nice house anyway, I paid $365 a month, something like that. The average cost of living. Okay, now remember this. We've already talked that the average income for a family of four is $80,610. The average cost of living in this country, depending on where you live, is anywhere from $72,000 to $126,000 a year. Now, how's that sustainable? We've got factory workers these days. And when I was young, if you had a factory job, you were in pretty good shape. Okay, you weren't rich, but you could afford a house, you could afford a couple of vehicles, you could afford to take a vacation every year, and still stick a little money in your savings account, right? You weren't living like a king, but you were doing pretty good. Factory job paid well enough that you could have a nice, comfortable living on, right? Now we have factory job workers, factory workers that are working full time that are homeless because they can't afford to live inside the house anymore. This is insane. It's insane. I swear the world's just upside down. Also, okay, so y'all took economics in school, right? Or in college, or both, like I did, whatever. Uh, Supply and demand. Remember when supply and demand, right? Supply's high, demand's low, prices go down, right? How come it doesn't work like that anymore? Have you noticed that? Like, demand falls through the floor because people don't have money to buy anything, and the price still goes up. Because some genius, I don't know who it is, came to the conclusion that, okay, so last year we sold 1,000 widgets for $10 a piece, right? This is just theoretical. But the economy's bad, people don't have money. This year we're only going to sell 10 widgets. So let's make those widgets $1,000 a piece instead of $10 a piece. That way we can still maintain our level of profitability and sales to match. And that's how things are working now these days. It's not supply and demand anymore. It's how much money do we need to make versus how many products do we actually think we're going to be able to sell. And if the number of products that we're going to be able to sell goes down, well, then the price has to go up because we still have to make our money, right? Corporate greed killing us. You know, a lot of people said, well, Trump's going to fix this. Honestly, there's nothing he can do. Okay, the government has no say in price of products or anything like that. There's nothing they can do about it. Okay, if these big corporations want to keep pumping money out and burying the little guy so they can make sure their profit margin stays up, then that's what they're going to do. Now, with all that going on, now AI is starting to take people's jobs. Man, office jobs, receptionist, go through the drive-thru at McDonald's. First thing you talk to is an AI. Maybe somebody comes on after that, maybe. Call the electric company, all AI. You practically got to fight with the thing to talk to a real person. And that's just the beginning, okay? As these companies start realizing, hey, we can make more money, because that's all what it's about, right? If we start replacing our workforce with AI, and it'll start with the office jobs, and pretty soon they'll say, well, let's replace all of our workers with AI. Well, maybe they can't do that yet, but that day's coming quick. And of course they're going to say, well, yeah, we want people to have jobs because we want them to buy our products. We just don't want them to work here. Let somebody else employ them because, we got to keep our costs down and all that. But they're all going to say that. So how are we going to function as a society when nobody's working? Okay? When your average person doesn't have an income. They keep wanting to jack these housing prices. Well, who's going to live in them? What are they going to do when they have all these houses sitting around empty and all the people are off in the woods living in a tent? How's that going to work? How's our society going to work when it gets to that point? And we're getting there quick. You see a lot of these economists and that say, oh, that's a decade or 2 decades down the road. I don't think it is. At the rate these things are going, I mean, look at where we went in the last 4 or 5 years. Okay? It's not 2 decades or even a decade down the road. It's 4 or 5 more years down the road. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a solution to this, okay? I think about this probably every day. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know. Maybe you guys do. If you got some kind of idea, please leave a comment. Because I got no idea how to fix this or no idea what's going to happen. The people aren't going to take so much, right? I mean, you can only kick a dog so many times before it bites you. I mean, not that I'd ever kick any dog, especially mine. But man, I tell you, we're on a road, we're on a bad path. And this is why we need to prep, right? You need to stock up as much food and supplies as you possibly can. Because this is not going to get better. I don't think it's going to get better. I really don't. Like I said, the government can't fix it. The corporations are going to keep pushing, oh, we got to break our record profits again next year. And they're going to come up with ways to do that by raising prices and eliminating employees and things like that. So it's not going to get any better. It's just not. Like I said, let me know what you guys think, because I just, man, this is probably what worries me the most is basically the downfall of society through AI and corporate greed. Well, hey guys, thanks for stopping by. As always, stay safe, stay prepared, stay alert. God bless everybody. We'll see you on the next one.